I'd now like to spend some time talking to you about contact, discovery, in the New World. First of all, contact happens at different times and in different places for different Indigenous peoples. And we talked to you a little bit about that in Stone Age Columbus already. It's continuous waves of migration over a period of at least 16,000 years. So contact in the Canadian experience, we start to see some of the early contact happening in the 1600s, with some of the more recent contact happening in the late 1800s here in the western part of Canada. So we're talking about Aboriginal peoples in British Columbia still living free of control from the Department of Indian Affairs and Indian Act legislation into the 1890s and 1900s. So a much more recent event when we're talking about contact. Now, one of the other interesting features of contact is this whole idea of discovery in the New World. In 1492, Christopher Columbus is credited for discovering the New World. And he was here in 1492. I'm going to change the language a little bit. Columbus arrived in 1492, and that's an important thing to understand because really at the time of his arrival, it's estimated that 1/5 of the world's population was already living in North and South America. That's about 100 million people at the time of his arrival. So from the perspective of that 100 million people, they find it really hard to understand how you can discover something when there's already 100 million people living there. And so you'll see tribes protesting this idea of discovery and contact and those kinds of things that happens in the United States, even a little bit here in Canada sometimes too. So that's a little bit about the New World. And again, another cross-cultural perspective for you. To that 100 million people, it wasn't a new world. It was a world as old as time itself. It went back into creation. So a very important sort of piece of the understanding when working with Aboriginal peoples here in Canada, that it wasn't discovery, that was simply a contact event, that it was a world as old as time itself.